It is 1866. You are a sailor aboard a wooden vessel in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. No land in any direction, no radio, no GPS, no satellite signal of any kind. Your compass tells you which way is north. Your maps tell you what the coastlines look like, but neither of them can tell you the one thing you desperately need to know right now. Where exactly are you? Your captain looks at the crew looks at each other, and then, almost instinctively, every eye on that deck does the same thing. They look up. Before GPS existed, before radar, before any of the technology we take for granted today, sailors crossed the largest oceans on Earth with nothing but the sky above them. The stars were not decoration. They were the navigation system. This is how it worked. To understand why the stars mattered, you first need to understand the problem sailors faced. Finding your north-south position at sea, your latitude, was actually not that difficult. You measure the angle of the sun at noon, or a specific star at night, and mathematics gives you your latitude. Sailors had been doing this reliably for centuries. The problem was east-west position, longitude. And that problem almost had no solution. Longitude depends entirely on time. The Earth rotates 360 degrees every 24 hours, meaning it moves 15 degrees every hour. If you know exactly what time it is at a fixed reference point back home, and you compare it to the local time where you are now, the difference tells you how far east or west you have traveled. Simple in theory, nearly impossible at sea, because every clock that existed before the 1700s was completely unreliable on a rolling ocean. The pendulum stopped working. The springs expanded and contracted with temperature changes. The mechanism seized in salt air. Sailors could find north and south with the stars, but east and west remained for centuries educated guesswork. This meant that half of a sailor's position on Earth, half the map, was essentially unknown. So what could the stars actually tell them? Everything they could measure. In the northern hemisphere, one star above all others became the foundation of maritime navigation. Polaris, the North Star. Polaris sits almost directly above the North Pole. While every other star in the sky appears to rotate through the night as the Earth turns, Polaris barely moves. It is fixed, and because of that, it has one extraordinary property. The angle between Polaris and the horizon is exactly equal to your latitude. Stand at the North Pole and Polaris is directly overhead. Stand at the equator and it sits on the horizon. Stand anywhere in between and the angle tells you precisely where you are north to south. No calculation needed. Just a sextant and a clear night. But finding Polaris required knowing where to look. This is where two other constellations became essential tools. The Big Dipper, part of Ursa Major, acts as a pointer. The two outer stars at the edge of its bowl form a straight line that, extended outward, leads directly to Polaris. Sailors called these two stars the pointers. Find the Big Dipper, follow the pointers, find your position. But what if the Big Dipper was below the horizon? Then sailors turned to Cassiopeia, shaped like a distinctive W in the sky, sitting on the opposite side of Polaris from the Big Dipper. Between these two constellations, Polaris was findable on almost any clear night from almost any angle. Then there was Orion. 3 stars in a perfectly straight line, Orion's belt, visible from both hemispheres, from every ocean on Earth. And here is the detail that made Orion uniquely useful. Those 3 stars rise almost exactly due east and set almost exactly due west, anywhere on the planet. On a ship with no compass, Orion's belt at dawn or dusk gave sailors a reliable east-west axis to orient themselves, but all of this only worked north of the equator. Cross the equator heading south, and Polaris disappears below the horizon. The Big Dipper goes with it. The entire navigation system that Northern Hemisphere sailors had built over centuries suddenly becomes useless. The Southern Hemisphere had its own answer. The Southern Cross. Crux. 4 stars forming a cross shape visible only from southern latitudes. By extending the long axis of the cross approximately 4.5 times its own length, sailors could locate the south celestial pole, the southern equivalent of Polaris, and from there determine their latitude. When Ferdinand Magellan became the first person to lead a circumnavigation of the Earth between 1519 and 1522, his crew crossed into the southern hemisphere with no reliable navigation reference. They adopted the Southern Cross from indigenous navigators who had been using it for generations. Without it, The first circumnavigation of the globe may never have been completed. But no civilization in history used the stars more completely, more precisely, or more ambitiously than the Polynesians. While European sailors were still struggling to find longitude, Polynesian navigators had memorized the rising and setting positions of over 150 individual stars. Not constellations, individual stars, each one with a known rising point on the horizon, a known path across the sky, and a known setting point on the other side. They mentally divided the entire horizon into 32 segments, each associated with a specific star. The star Sirius rises in the east and sets in the west. Canopus rises in the southeast. The Pleiades cluster provides seasonal orientation. Each star was a compass point. Together they formed what is called a star compass, not a physical object, but a complete mental map of the sky that a trained navigator carried inside their own head. They also used a technique called sailing down the latitude. Every island in the Pacific has specific stars that pass directly overhead, a celestial address unique to that location. A navigator would first find their target island's latitude using the stars, then sail east or west along that latitude line until land appeared. And here's the detail that makes this genuinely staggering. Voyages across the Pacific could last 4 weeks or longer. During that entire time, the navigator slept only 2 or 3 hours per day, maintaining a continuous star watch through the night. The knowledge was not written down. It was memorized completely, passed from master to student through years of training. In 1774, Spanish captain José de Andía y Varela watched Polynesian sailing masters travel 150 miles between islands without a single navigational instrument. He noted in his journal, "When the night is a clear one, they steer by the stars." He wrote it with amazement. For the Polynesians, it was simply Tuesday. For all the brilliance of star navigation, one problem remained unsolved for centuries: longitude. And the cost of that unsolved problem was written in human lives. In October 1707, a fleet of British warships returning from Gibraltar ran into trouble in the Atlantic. The navigators believed they were safely west of the French coast. They were wrong, by nearly 100 miles. In the darkness, 4 ships ran directly into the rocks of the Scilly Isles off the southwest coast of England. Between 1,400 and 2,000 sailors drowned in a single night. Not in a storm, not in a battle. In calm weather, on a routine return voyage because the navigators could not accurately determine where they were east to west. The disaster and others like it eventually forced the British government to act. In 1714, they offered a prize of £20,000, equivalent to roughly £3.5 million today, to anyone who could solve the longitude problem. The prize sat unclaimed for decades. Astronomers proposed measuring the angle between the moon and specific stars and cross-referencing with tables, a method that worked but took hours of complex calculation on a moving deck. Mathematicians proposed theoretical solutions that worked beautifully on paper and failed completely at sea. The answer, when it came, did not come from an astronomer or a mathematician. It came from John Harrison, a self-taught clockmaker from Yorkshire who had barely any formal education. Over more than 40 years, Harrison built 4 progressively refined chronometers, clocks designed specifically to keep accurate time at sea, regardless of temperature changes, humidity, and the constant motion of a rolling ship. His final design, the H4, lost just 5 seconds over an 81-day ocean voyage. 5 seconds. On a ship crossing an ocean for nearly 3 months. With an accurate clock on board, a navigator could finally compare the time at Greenwich to local noon determined by the sun, calculate the difference, and know exactly how far east or west they had traveled. For the first time in history, a ship's complete position, latitude, and longitude could be determined precisely. Captain James Cook used a copy of Harrison's chronometer on his second voyage of discovery and wrote in his log, "I must here take notice that our longitude can never be erroneous while we have so good a guide as Mr. Kendall's watch." The stars guided human beings across every ocean on Earth for thousands of years. They told sailors where they were, which direction they were heading, and how far they had come. They did it with nothing more than light, mathematics, and the trained human eye. GPS became standard on commercial ships in the 1990s. That means celestial navigation was the primary method of finding your position at sea for over 4,000 years, and was made redundant only 30 years ago. Today, the U.S. Naval Academy still teaches every student celestial navigation as a mandatory skill, not as history, as a backup system in case GPS fails or is disabled. Because the stars that guided sailors in 1707 are still up there, still reliable, still accurate. The sky has not changed. Only our willingness to look at it has. If this video was right up your alley, then check out this one. Thanks for watching and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.